Part 39. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens. Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 381. To be precise, I want to ask you for advice. Jingmeng looked extremely serious. Please give me some advice. Don't take it seriously, Senior. Jingmeng really did a disservice to this junior. Suliang quickly waved his hand and said hesitantly, is this appropriate? What's inappropriate? Jingmeng looked at Suliang seriously. There is a saying that learning has no precedence, and masters come first. Since you have more knowledge than me in this area, then there is no problem for me to ask you for advice. This has nothing to do with elders and juniors. Do you think I care about the issues between elders and younger generations? Isn't it just like this? You, an elder, a woman, consult me, a junior, a man, about emotional issues. Do you know what this means, Senior Jingmeng? This is really cute to the extreme. Do you have any other questions? Jingmeng looked at Suliang, who was a little embarrassed, and asked seriously, if you have any problems, please tell me and I will find a way to solve it, but, please ask me. After saying that, Jingmeng actually bowed to Suliang. It simply highlights the appearance of a good student who is eager to learn. This time, Suliang was frightened. Senior Jingmeng, wake up. Suliang hurriedly helped Jingmeng up and looked helplessly at Jingmeng, who looked serious. After struggling for a long time, he sighed and said helplessly, okay, it's just some knowledge. Since Jingmeng, if the seniors want to know, I will just teach them. Thank you. Hearing this, Jingmeng showed a smile on her face and thanked her. Then, Suliang found a flat and smooth slate as a blackboard, and started writing and drawing on it with a charcoal pen as chalk. Just like that, teacher Suliang's small emotional class started. This feeling is divided into family, friendship, and love, and among them, there are two kinds, true and false. Suliang racked his brains to think and explained, well, just like the relationship between Senior Jingmeng and junior sister Mu, although they are not mother and daughter, they have been together since childhood to practice, but they are better than mother and daughter. This kind of relationship should be its family affection. I see. Jingmeng nodded seriously, holding a small notebook, constantly memorizing something, and raising her hand from time to time to ask, then the relationship between you and Sister Wanqing is also a family relationship? Hearing this, Suliang was startled. This question is really difficult to answer. What is the relationship between the beloved master and his rebellious disciple? This filial piety has long since deteriorated. Ahem. Suliang quickly coughed and changed the subject. As for love, it's just like Benjao and I. After that, he told all about the nature, expression, etc. of love. Hey, what does Qingqian mean to Suliang? Thinking of his apprentice's daily performance and the nonsense he had said to himself before, a question appeared in Jingmeng's mind, and then he felt like he understood something. Then, the behavior between Sister Wanqing and Suliang also appeared in her mind, making her confused again. I don't need to explain too much about friendship, right? Senior Jingmeng, you and my master have a very good friendship. While Suliang was talking, he watched Jingmeng write and draw. The notebook was full of memories and he only felt a little headache. This is a little too serious. He is really a good student who listens carefully to the lectures and is eager to learn. The key is that what he talks about is not too serious. As for listening so seriously? Just when Suliang was thinking wildly, Jingmeng, who was listening carefully, saw that Suliang didn't explain carefully, and immediately demanded, no, how can I not explain it? Every bit of knowledge is very important. Since it is something I don't know, I must understand it all. I will not miss any details. Please ask the teacher to explain it clearly. Hearing this, Suliang felt bad. Senior Jingmeng was taking it too seriously. He had to explain something insignificant to himself. Why did he call his teacher? Don't worry, you are my senior. Wouldn't calling me a teacher make you feel inferior in seniority? Okay, okay, Senior Jingmeng, don't get excited, I will explain it carefully. Suliang quickly calmed down Jingmeng. After a long time, Suliangdu felt a little dry, and then he finally explained this lesson clearly. Okay, this lesson is over, you can leave. Suliang sat down feebly. Senior Jingmeng learned very well. Giving lectures to Jingmeng was really a bit uncomfortable for Suliang. This student was too serious. Suliang said, Jingmeng has 7 or 8 questions waiting for Suliang. What else can Suliang do? Thank you, Teacher Suliang. Jingmeng stood up, put away his notebook, walked up to Suliang, and bowed seriously. Even though Suliang was considered her junior, and he only taught her a few irrelevant things, this was after all a matter of preaching and resolving doubts. Jingmeng felt that there was nothing wrong with her doing this. He didn't even notice that Suliang was extremely speechless. Immediately afterwards, before Suliang could say anything, Jingmeng had already stood up, walked behind Suliang, and said softly, to express my gratitude to Teacher Su, let the students serve the teacher once. Say it. A pair of soft jade hands gently pressed on Suliang's shoulders and began to knead and massage them gently. Feeling the light or heavy comfort, the soft and boneless hands touched his body, soft and comfortable. Suliang narrowed his eyes slightly, the feeling was indeed very good. Just feel. Jingmeng's act of serving the teacher in the name of gratitude is indeed a decent one. And just then, as Jingmeng's massage movements moved forward, whether intentionally or not, Jingmeng actually took a step forward. Then, because Suliang was sitting with his head just up to Jingmeng's chest, the pair of peaks on Jingmeng's chest were pressed tightly against Suliang's head. Moment. Just let Suliang's head sink into it, soft, elastic, and fragrant. At this moment, Suliang started to look weird. I have to say that he is worthy of being a person of the same generation as his master. Compared with his master, this scale is not much different. There is absolutely no way to compare with Mu Qingqian or anything like that. And at this moment, the cute sword fairy royal sister found no problems at all. Even though several days had passed since the battle, both sides found that they were unable to attack each other, but Mu Qingqian and Tao Yaoyao were still fighting against each other, never ending. This day, as soon as Suliang walked out of the door, a peach jumped over and jumped straight into Suliang's arms. Brother Suliang. With a sweet cry, Tao Yaoyao wrapped her legs around Suliang's waist and put her arms around Suliang's neck. She looked like she was so happy that she couldn't stop laughing. She rubbed her little face against Suliang's face. Brother Suliang has been very busy recently. I haven't gotten along well with Brother Suliang for several days. Today, Brother Suliang is Yao Yao. The girl was in his arms, and there was a warm and fragrant fragrance in his arms. Suliang subconsciously held the girl up, focusing only on the soft and upright body behind Tao Yaoyao. Just like holding a doll, Suliang held Tao Yaoyao in his arms and said helplessly, okay, come down quickly. If Benjao sees it. I'm not afraid. Tao Yaoyao hummed softly, but because of the warmth covering the soft and delicate body behind her, her eyes were hazy and her pretty face turned red. Brother Suliang. Calling Suliang's name, Dao Yaoyao spit out her sweet tongue like a kitten and touched Suliang's ears. Then, he gave Mu Qingqian a provocative look at Mu Qingqian, who was also walking towards him not far away. Moment. Mu Qingqian's face darkened. After taking a few steps forward, Mu Qingqian grabbed Tao Yaoyao, pulled her off Suliang's body, and dragged her away. Senior brother Su, please do your work first. Junior sister, I'll take care of you. I'm going to practice with this girl. Then, very quickly, the two of them disappeared. Volume 1 Hashtag Chapter 362, T-Talk, Mu Ching Qian, Cao Thief's March. A quiet and deserted place. Mu Ching Qian threw Tao Yao Yao aside and asked with a cold face, what do you want? What's the matter? Brother Suliang is not yours, why can't I hug him? Tao Yao Yao crossed her arms, raised her little head, and said deliberately provocatively, Humph, I not only want to hug Brother Suliang, but also kiss Brother Suliang, and do some things with Brother Suliang that only lovers can do, when the time comes, Humph, let this violent woman like you watch, just a little bit. Hearing this, Mu Ching Qian was almost furious, but soon she calmed down and looked at Tao Yao Yao with a half smile. I really can't do this with Senior Brother Su, but you can do it? As far as I know, you and Senior Brother Su don't have any close relationship. Then you are wrong. Tao Yao Yao became arrogant and even more provocative. Let me tell you, Brother Suliang and I have already passed the test of true love. There is a Nahi bridge in my house. Only people who are in love can cross it. We have already gone through it, and Brother Suliang and I have already gone through it once. I do love Brother Suliang deeply, but this also shows that Brother Suliang loves me in his heart. What about you, violent woman, can you do this? This time, Mu Ching Qian really felt Tao Yao Yao's provocation and couldn't stand it anymore. Humph, you witch, stop talking nonsense. Mu Qingqian's face sank, and he took a step forward. Well, since neither of you and I can do it, let's each rely on our own abilities. Let's see who can win over Senior Brother Su in the end. Okay, it's a deal. Upon hearing this, Tao Yao Yao's eyes lit up and she immediately agreed. Then, the two personalities of the past are now engaged in a cruel battle for Suliang alone. The march of Cao Thieves kicked off. On this day, Tao Yao Yao went to look for Suliang again as usual, intending to stay by Suliang's side. When it comes to what you should do when you rob someone, of course you should stick to him all the time. Let him be by your side except when sleeping, but you want to see how Mu Ching Qian, that violent woman, will fight with you. However, this time, Mu Ching Qian was one step faster than Tao Yao Yao. After fighting with Tao Yao Yao for so long, Mu Ching Qian has long understood Tao Yao Yao's methods, which are just to pester Senior Brother Su. Who wouldn't know that? As long as I get to Senior Brother Su one step ahead of you, what will you do when the time comes? Beat. Can you beat me? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 382. Hum, the plan works. Then, when Tao Yao Yao found Suliang, she saw a scene that stunned her. I saw. Suliang was lying on the narrow reclining chair, not even bothering to read the book in his hand, with a slightly subtle expression on his face. And on Suliang, a righteous goddess was lying on it, curled up in Suliang's arms like a lazy kitten, with her little head rubbing against Suliang's chest with a gentle smile on her face. Seeing Tao Yao Yao's arrival, Mu Ching Qian gave Tao Yao Yao a provocative look, moved her soft hands up her chest, and gently touched Suliang's face. Hum, taking advantage of your sweetheart in front of you, Tao Yao Yao, what can you do to me? Hit me? Can't beat it? Driving me away in front of Senior Brother Su? If this witch really did this and followed Mu Qingqian's wishes, Suliang would definitely have a bad impression of Tao Yao Yao. In this case, the balance of victory would be tilted towards Mu Qingqian's side was tilted. Huh, witch, do you think you are the only one who can use this trick? Seeing Mu Ching Qian like this right now, Tao Yao Yao was simply shocked. Is this still the righteous goddess Mu Ching Qian? When did the righteous goddess actually learn the tricks of a witch like me? Now, shouldn't I be the one who should be in Brother Suliang's arms and enjoying Brother Suliang's tenderness? Yeah, Mu Ching Qian, get out of here, Brother Suliang is mine. As soon as she thought of this, Tao Yao Yao couldn't hold herself any longer. She walked over with small steps, pulled Mu Qingqian's arm, and wanted to pull her off. Mu Qingqian, you violent person girl, stay away from brother Suliang. Who is brother Suliang and who are you? How can I allow you to be so presumptuous? After hearing this, Mu Qingqian immediately hugged Suliang, and started to perform the tea ceremony directly. Senior brother Su, look at her, this witch, she actually bullies others like this. See this? Suli really couldn't ignore it, so he could only say helplessly, okay, Yao Yao, you and Qingqian, please stop making trouble. Snored. Tao Yao Yao was immediately unhappy. Seeing her sweetheart being taken advantage of by her enemies, she couldn't bear the pain. She immediately said, Brother Suliang, this violent woman is so close to you. She must have evil intentions. You must not. She was deceived. Qingqian is not such a person. Suliang shook his head and said. Hearing this, Mu Qingqian immediately laughed happily and hugged Suliang tightly. Senior brother Su still understands Qingqian, that which will only squeeze Qingqian to satisfy her own wishes. She doesn't care about consideration at all. Unlike Qingqian, she only cares about her senior brother. Immediately. Ignoring Tao Yao Yao's stunned look, Mu Qingqian looked aggrieved and pitiful again, pulling Suliang's collar, as if he didn't want to leave but had to leave. How about that? I'd better leave senior brother, look, that witch is even jealous. After saying this, Mu Qingqian gave Tao Yao Yao a provocative look again. Which, are these the moves you usually use? Sorry, these tricks are all mine. I, Mu Qingqian, just want to follow the path of the witch, so that the witch has no way to go. Tao Yao Yao on the side looked at this scene, so surprised that her body started to tremble with anger. This righteous goddess is so shameless. Why doesn't she feel ashamed at all when she uses the methods of a witch like me? Shivering. Mu Qingqian was so eaten up that there was nothing he could do. And just then, a familiar voice suddenly echoed in the courtyard. Is Suliang here? The Taoist saint is here to visit. And as the words approached, the figure of the Holy Sun descended from the sky, still dressed in men's clothing by Yishan Su, extremely beautiful, unrestrained, and unbelievably arrogant. After landing on the ground, the Holy Sun looked around, looking for Suliang's figure, and said, Is Suliang here? I am here this time to review the previous incident of the Empress of Great Xia winning Chao Ji. The words just fell. The Holy Sun just happened to see Mu Qingqian, who was curled up on Suliang, looking pitiful and aggrieved, performing a tea ceremony. Moment. The Son of God is stupid. Volume 1 Chapter 363 The idol Tao Yao Yao pursues, the scene of the collapse of the character. Qingqian. He said that name with some disbelief, but as the past impressions emerged in his mind, the Holy Sun shook his head and said with certainty, No, you are not Qingqian, the righteous goddess Qingqian, who has always been aloof. How could he be cold and arrogant, with extraordinary bearing and lofty ambitions, lying in the arms of a man, and moreover, say such things? Tell me, who are you? Where did the Mu Qingqian I know go? The words fell. Base. The Holy Sun drew his sword and faced Mu Qingqian from afar. If you don't say anything, I will take action. To this, Mu Qingqian just lowered her head and didn't say a word. She felt terribly embarrassed. If she were at the beach, she could have found a 3-bedroom apartment. Actually, from the moment the Holy Sun arrived, Mu Qingqian already felt embarrassed. It's really because my posture at the moment is not suitable for being seen by my best friend. Her feelings for Suliang were not fake, so there was nothing she couldn't say. Even if she was competing with Tao Yao Yao for Suliang, Mu Qingqian felt that there was nothing she couldn't say. But at this moment, she was lying on Suliang, using the tricks of a witch, with a TNT attitude. It was so shameful. Ah, I was seen by the Holy Sun, what should I do? After being confused and embarrassed for a long time, Mu Qingqian silently moved off Suliang and smiled awkwardly. Hey, it's me, I'm really Mu Qingqian. Nonsense, how could Qingqian do such a thing to you? The Sun expressed his disbelief. However, in this regard, Mu Qingqian just looked at the Holy Sun deeply and said, if you were at my time, you would be able to understand me. Hearing this, the Holy Sun opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. At this time, Suliang had also stood up and said with a smile, the Holy Sun has come all the way to make my little mansion shine. Why don't you come with me to the house to drink tea and sit and chat? Hearing Suliang's voice, the Holy Sun immediately stopped caring about Mu Qingqian's affairs and turned to look at Suliang. And at this moment, the Holy Sun's originally surprised and alert expression turned cold, arrogant, and indifferent, and looked at Suliang expressionlessly. The Holy Sun's voice was cold, no need, it's fine here, you guys, I can't drink the Su family's tea. Shaking his head, the Holy Sun looked cold and arrogant, standing thousands of miles away, as if he and Suliang were just strangers. This change in the Sun's attitude made Suliang feel a little confused. He thought about his previous experience with the Holy Sun. Although the Holy Sun's attitude was indeed not very good at the beginning, and there was a lot of embarrassment later on, Suliang thought that his relationship with the Holy Sun was quite good in the end. Friends are not considered good friends, but friends who share will and woe should be considered friends, right? So, why is the Holy Sun so cold and arrogant towards him? Suliang scratched his head and said helplessly, okay. Since you don't want to drink tea, you can always sit down and talk. I said, you and I should have a pretty good relationship. Why do you come to my place, are you so polite? Just treat it like your own home. Treat it as your own home. No need to. The Holy Sun shook his head, still cold, but his words were full of resentment. Fellow Taoist Suliang has amazing cultivation, and he thinks that he can solve any problem by himself. This Holy Sun is here, it's just a review, why should fellow Taoist Suliang be so intimate? Hearing this, Suliang became even more confused. She didn't provoke the Holy Sun, did she? Why was her attitude so bad? And what is going on with this resentment that is about to break through the sky? I can't figure it out, I really can't figure it out. At this time, Qin Binjiao, who noticed the movement outside, came out of the room and came to Suliang's side. Looking the Holy Sun up and down, seeing how resentful the Holy Sun was, Qin Binjiao asked curiously, is this, sister brought back by Lang Zhengzhen's hookup? But as soon as Qin Binjiao finished speaking, she was taught a lesson. Snapped. Suliang violently shuddered and hit his girlfriend on the head. He said very speechlessly, friend, they are just friends. When they come to our place, they have business to do. Where did you think you were? Moreover, could it be that whenever a woman comes to our house, it's me who hooks up with her? Binjiao, what impression do you have of me? Hey. Qin Binjiao smiled and said nothing. The images of her master, Sister Wanqing, Sister Ying, and the Queen Mother automatically appeared in her mind. Then, his eyes turned to Mu Qingqian and Tao Yaoyao, who were still fighting openly and secretly. That's the impression. And just then, Tao Yaoyao's voice sounded a little crying behind Qin Binjiao, sister, you are finally here. Hearing this, Qin Binjiao turned her head to look, and then she saw only an afterimage throwing herself into her arms. Ouch, eldest sister, what do you think I should do? What do you mean? Qin Binjiao asked a little confused. She was not here just now, and she really didn't know what happened here. Raising her head and looking at the confused face of the eldest sister, Tao Yaoyao looked aggrieved and pointed at Mu Qingqian. Mu Qingqian, she is a violent woman, she actually imitates others, and she even learns better than others. Whatever you do is fine. I feel very hurt and tired. Obviously, I am the only one in this family who has the attribute of a witch. Whether it is being tired of Brother Suliang or chatting over tea, these are what I am best at and should belong to my own attributes. But now, Mu Qingqian, a righteous goddess, has learned the lesson. Woohoo, my only attribute is incredible, what should I use to steal Suliang's brother in the future? For a moment, Tao Yaoyao felt extremely discouraged, as if the way forward was cut off and she had lost all hope. Even the scene of Suliang holding Mu Qingqian in his arms vaguely appeared before her eyes. Gradually, the little demon girl's eyes lost their light. Tao Yaoyao said, Mu Qingqian, a violent woman, not only takes advantage of Brother Suliang, but also imitates other people's speech. I only feel sorry for my senior brother, but she won't be jealous. I can't even say such a thing. Sister, you judge and judge. This is obviously his attribute and his tricks are correct. Why did she, Mu Qingqian, just learn it? Seeing this, Qin Benjiao blinked and looked at Mu Qingqian, who had an innocent look on her side. She vaguely seemed to have discerned the truth. Hugging Tao Yaoyao in his arms, Qin Benjiao said with a gentle voice and a smile on her face, Okay, Qingqian is a righteous person. Even if she uses your tricks, it is against her true intention. It's okay to use it once or twice, but it can't be used often. When the time comes, aren't these tricks still yours? Hearing this, Tao Yaoyao raised her head and blinked her misty eyes. Sister, is what you said true? Of course it's true. Qin Benjiao nodded. Besides, if she uses your tricks, you won't be able to use hers. People can be flexible and changeable. At worst, they can change their homes. In this way, no one will be able to use her tricks. Suffered a loss. Besides, Yaoyao, you are you, uniquely you, don't limit yourself to a certain attribute or style. Be more confident. You are very charming. No matter who you compete with, you will never lose. Really? Really? Sister, are you serious? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 383. Listening to Qin Benjiao's words, Tao Yaoyao couldn't help but ask. Of course it's true. Qin Benjiao nodded seriously, no one knew what she was thinking. But then, Tao Yaoyao still seemed a little worried and asked again, Sister, are you really not trying to comfort me by saying this? Of course not. Qin Benjiao smiled and patted Tao Yaoyao on the head. Yaoyao, be confident. Be confident. You are who you are. Tao Yaoyao is completely different from anyone else. No one can replace you. After hearing this, Tao Yaoyao was completely relieved. Immediately afterwards, I was moved to tears. Big sister. He hugged Qin Benjiao tightly with his backhand. Thank you, eldest sister. If it weren't for eldest sister, I'm afraid Yaoyao would not have the confidence to admit defeat. Since you call me sister, then I should naturally take care of you. Qin Benjiao touched Tao Yaoyao's little head and responded with a smile, feeling the touch in her hands. Don't tell me, it's quite comfortable. After hearing Qin Benjiao's words, Tao Yaoyao was even more moved. Woohoo, eldest sister is so good. She didn't care about me pursuing her man, but she comforted me so sincerely, and every word she said was precise and thought-provoking. Sister, you are the light of the right path that I, Tao Yaoyao, pursue. In the hall, a large table was placed, filled with fine wines and delicacies, many of which were cooked by Suliang himself. In the Su family, a banquet of this level can be said to be the highest level of entertainment. And outside the hall, Qin Benjao, Tan Kinja and other girls walked towards the hall with the Holy Sun who had come from afar. Behind the girls, Suliang followed closely. It took a lot of effort to get here, I should treat you a little bit. Mu Qingqian held the hand of the Holy Sun with a smile on her face. After being with Suliang for a long time, Mu Qingqian didn't treat those close to her so coldly and arrogantly. You should try Brother Su's craftsmanship, however. In order to entertain you, Senior Brother Su went out of his way to cook today and cooked a table full of delicacies. Are you willing to let it go like this? After hearing this, in that small world, the taste of Suliang's 3 delicious meals a day appeared in the mind of the Holy Sun, giving the Holy Sun a little more expectation. In that case, then I will stay. The Holy Sun glanced at Suliang, still maintaining a cold and arrogant expression. I'm just giving Qingqian face. Well, that's it. Okay, I know. Mu Qingqian shook her head in amusement. In fact, she didn't know what happened between Zhenzi and Suliang, so that Zhenzi's attitude towards Suliang became like this. Mingming was quite happy when we were separated last time. But this does not prevent her from bringing her best friends to enjoy delicious food together. Everyone sat down on their seats. The Holy Sun looked at the hot and fragrant delicacies in front of him, and his expression visibly relaxed. Come on, don't be polite, eat more, and treat this place as your home. Wanqing took the lead and gave Shenzi a piece of food with chopsticks. She smiled and said, speaking of which, your master and I are peers and we often communicate with each other on weekdays. Just treat me as an elder. When you come to my place, don't be restrained. Thank you, Senior Wanqing. The Holy Sun stood up in a hurry to thank him, and then looked at Wanqing, almost taking a breath of air. On weekdays, she naturally had no chance to see Wanqing up close, and the last time she was outside the dragon cave, she was in a hurry and didn't have time to see Wanqing's face clearly. But now, when she saw it clearly, she was suddenly shocked. Senior Wanqing, so beautiful. She is stunningly beautiful, charming yet holy. She is obviously smiling, but there is a vague feeling of arrogance mixed in with her. Her mature figure is plump and exquisite, yet slender and slender. There is nothing more magnificent than this. At this time, the Holy Sun heard another quarrel. Master, you eat your own food. Why do you want to steal what others gave Sulang? Humph, you rebellious disciple. I am a teacher for your own good. It is in vain that you still consider yourself my sister. Why, don't you even remember what Liang likes to eat? Look at the ones you gave to Liang. Which one does Liang like to eat? Master, you use strong words and bully others. Following the sound, the Holy Sun saw at a glance that master and disciple Qin Benjao and Tan Kinja were fighting over a pair of chopsticks in each hand. After seeing the faces of the two men clearly, the Holy Sun was shocked again. Qin Benjao is like a fairy, extremely beautiful and pure. Even though she is much livelier now, she still has an ethereal feeling of coming out of the world. She is like an immortal coming to earth, tainted with some worldly atmosphere, but even more beautiful. Tan Kinja, who is beside her, is graceful and elegant, and her mature and charming feeling is simply irresistible. Her heart is pounding, her body is plump, and she is exquisite. I don't know how many people envy her. This is another pair of stunningly beautiful people. At this time, another voice came from the side of the Holy Sun. Holy Sun, please have a good rest today. Wait until tomorrow, and I will explain to the Holy Sun the details of the previous incident. After all, it was me who committed it. It's wrong, and I will certainly not refuse to bear it. Following the sound, the Holy Sun turned around and looked over, only to see Ying Kaoch, who was extremely beautiful, domineering, elegant and majestic, smiling lightly at her. Next to Ying Kaoch was Qin Wanyu, who was charming and graceful like a noble lady. In addition, Mu Qingqian on the side has almost the same face and figure as Mu Qingqian, but is more charming, enchanting, lively and agile Tao Yao Yao. At this moment, this small room is actually filled with the most beautiful people in the world. Even though the Holy Sun was usually quite confident about her appearance and thought that not many people in the world could compare with her, at this moment, facing a room full of stunning women, she also felt great pressure. Halfway through the banquet, Qin Binjao suddenly asked, "Son, how did you and my husband know each other? I see that you had a very good relationship before. Have you experienced a lot together?" "I did have some experiences, but they were all trivial and not worth mentioning." The Holy Sun smiled, slightly reserved, not wanting to say anything more. But no matter what, the Holy Sun cannot defeat a room full of vixens. "I saw." Qin Binjao picked up the wine glass and said, "Since the Holy Sun doesn't want to talk about it, let's stop talking. Come on, Holy Sun, Binjao has a toast for you." Binjao has already heard of the Holy Sun's name. Fairy Binjao is welcome. The Holy Sun quickly picked up the wine glass and drank the glass. Immediately afterwards, Yang Kaoj stood up again. "Come, I also want to toast to the Holy Sun. This time, for my sake, I really bothered the Holy Sun. The Holy Sun is indeed as righteous as the rumors say. Awe-inspiring and public-spirited. No matter where you are, it's just a matter of duty." The Holy Sun also picked up the wine glass and drank it all in one gulp without any intention of refusing. Then Wan Qing stood up again and said with a smile, "Come, drink this cup with me." After saying that, Wan Qing looked at the Holy Sun and praised, "I have heard your master say a long time ago that this disciple of hers is extremely talented and graceful, and she possesses rare and beautiful jade in the world. Now it seems that it is indeed in this way." Senior Wan Qing is so complimentary. Being praised by the senior Wan Qing, the Holy Sun was indeed very happy. He quickly picked up the wine glass and drank it all in one gulp. Then, under the continuous toasts, compliments, and various words of admiration for the Holy Sun from the girls, the Holy Sun didn't even have a reason or thought to refuse, and was coaxed to keep drinking. Not long after, the Holy Sun became drunk. At this time, Qin Binjao and others asked the previous questions again, but the Holy Sun did not hide anything and began to show off his cards. "Sul Yang, at the beginning, I was hostile to him because of Qingqian. After all, Qingqian I am too close to Sul Yang, but after all, Sul Yang has saved me several times, so the hostility will never rise again." Humph, in that small world, Sul Yang secretly saw the Holy Sun taking a bath, and he even covered it up with whether it was real or an illusion. As the Holy Sun recounted the unbearable past events one by one, Sul Yang broke into a cold sweat as he listened. The girls around Sul Yang all looked at Sul Yang with interest. In Qin Wanyu's room, Dong Jun and Qin Wanyu sat face to face, relatively speechless. Seeing that his best friend still had the leisure to study music scores here, Dong Jun felt so anxious that he almost exploded. "Wanyu, aren't you anxious at all?" Dong Jun grabbed the piano score and attracted Qin Wanyu's attention before saying, "Look at the order in which Sul Yang came to see you these past few days. It's obvious that you are very far behind. Lian Yang Kaoj you can't even compare." "So what?" Qin Wanyu blinked and looked at Dong Jun with some confusion. "My husband naturally has his own reasons for doing things. My relationship with my husband will not be damaged because of this. What's more, there are indeed many sisters in the family. To whom does my husband treat me, love is the same. Since you don't want to favor one over the other, then your husband should naturally come out in order. I believe that your husband has no selfish motives at all." Volume 1 Chapter 364, "You are all gone, how can I monopolize it?" So, instead of worrying about this here, it is better to study the music score carefully. If you can create a piece that your husband likes, that would be the best thing. After that, Qin Wanyu took back the music score and continued to study it. Hearing this, Dong Jun wanted to spit out a mouthful of blood. My best friend is a bit too humble now. What about Qin Wanyu, who used to be arrogant and used men as tools? How come I have become so obsessed with men now? Isn't this difference too big? After thinking about it, Dong Jun began to encourage, you also know that Suliang arranged the order. No matter what the reason for Suliang's order is, it should represent some preference in his heart and some of you. How important it is to him. Wanyu, looking at it this way, you are very far in the queue. Aren't you in a hurry at all? Why the rush? Qin Wanyu tilted her head and looked at her best friend. You. Dong Jun was at a loss for words for a moment. He hated his best friend so much that he hated her. He said sadly, Qin Wanyu, you have some ambitions, okay. After many inquiries in the past few days, I also know that Qin Binjao's status in Suliang's heart is different. After all, she has been by Suliang's side since he was young, and she has been with him all the way to now. Naturally, there is no one who can compare with her in terms of affection. The position of the main palace in your family should be hers. No one can take it away, not even you. Not to mention, Senior Wanqing, Tan Kinja, Ying Kaoj, none of them are fuel-efficient lamps. The position in the main palace is really hard to grab and sit on. However, although you can't take away the position of the main palace, you can't be the youngest either. The youngest? That's not the case, right? In my husband's heart, there is no such ranking. Qin Wanyu shook her head, not really agreeing with Dong Jun's words. How do you know not? Dong Jun asked back, and then encouraged, Wanyu, you should give full play to your own advantages. No matter what, you have to be better than Tan Kinja and the others, right? Listening to her best friend's words, Qin Wanyu couldn't help it anymore. She pursed her lips and sighed helplessly, my good sister, this is my family's business. I don't feel anything about it yet. Why are you more anxious than me? At the same time. On the other side, in Ying Kaoj's room, at this moment, Ying Kaoj and Yefei were gathered here. Yefei, don't hesitate anymore. You are in love and he is interested. Where do you come from so many scruples and hesitations? Ying Kaoj was also encouraging his best friend, you have to know that for such an outstanding person as Lang Jun, the position around him is very popular. Those who come early can still be ranked in some places, and those who come late, but there's nothing left. When your husband can no longer see you, if you want to express your feelings, you won't have the chance. Your Majesty, I naturally know these truths, but my villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 384. Yefei bit her lip and said hesitantly. After all, this is my first time, and I still really like Suliang. How do you want her to say it so readily? The girl was worried. Even with the assurance of His Majesty, whom she trusted the most, Yefei was still a little uneasy and worried about gains and losses. Seeing Yefei's hesitation, Ying Kaoj smiled and said, don't worry, this time, with my help, you can do what you want to do boldly. Patting Yefei's shoulder, Ying Kaoj said with a smile, you and I have known each other for so many years. We say we are monarchs and ministers, but in fact, we are already best friends. With me here, what are you worried about? When the time comes, you and I will appear in front of your husband together. As best friends, we can bring more help than two. You have to think carefully. This is an opportunity that will definitely lead to victory. If you make enough mistakes, you don't know when it will be until you muster up the courage. Is this really okay? Yefei asked hesitantly. Obviously, she was already a little moved. Of course, you still don't believe me. Ying Kaoj said with a smile, and quickly picked up his best friend and started to go out. Let's go, I will take you there right now, trust me, my husband, he will definitely not be able to resist the love of you and my best friend's strength. After a while, outside Suliang's room, 4 figures gathered here, looking at each other in silence. Haha, Cao Ji, why are you here, and why are you bringing Yefei with you? Qin Wanyu asked with a slightly embarrassed smile. Isn't the Queen Mother here too? This person next to me, Dong Jun. If I remember correctly, he should be the Queen Mother's best friend, right? As soon as these words came out, all 4 people on both sides fell silent. They really didn't expect that they would crash here. And look at the configuration of both sides. When Cao Ji, Yefei, best friends are of the same mind. Qin Wanyu and Dong Jun are the same best friends and they are very close. In an instant, they all guessed each other's purpose. Don't you just want to play the best friend card? So, here comes the problem. Since both sides have the same purpose and configuration, and both sides crashed in front of Suliangman. So, who goes in first? This is a very serious question. For a moment, the atmosphere fell silent. But right now, Tan Kinja's figure appeared in front of the 4 of them. Looking at the awkward 4 people, Tan Kinja looked at them with a half smile. Kaoj and Yefei, Wanyu and Dong Jun, well, these 2 pairs of best friends are very good sisters. Hey, you guys are here now, what are you doing? It's over, this little trick I did was actually discovered by Sister Kinja. In an instant, the 4 people on both sides became even more embarrassed. Ha ha ha, I just saw that the scenery was beautiful today, so I brought Yefei to enjoy the scenery. Yang Kaoj smiled awkwardly and concealed his purpose rather guiltily. Qin Wanyu on the side also smiled awkwardly, with various guilty consciences and various cover ups. After all, Dong Jun has been here for a few days and has not taken a good look at our home. Sister Kinja, don't worry, I am just taking Dong Jun at home. Just a sightseeing walk. He never mentioned his true purpose. In the mansion, everyone gathered together. Tan Kinja sat next to Suliang, held Suliang's hand, and said softly, Yang, the date set by the family is very close now. We will leave for the family soon. Otherwise, when the time comes, I'm afraid we won't reach it. Nodding, Suliang thought carefully, do you think we should bring some gifts back? It doesn't have to be this way. Volume 1 Chapter 365 Returning to her mother's house, Kinja turned over, and, do you dare to touch me? Tan Kinja shook her head and joked. The family treated her like this. It was already a great honor for her to go back with her man. What other gifts did she want to bring? How can it be? Really don't want it? Suliang asked again with some worry. If he went elsewhere, he would not think so much. Even if he went to Shangzhou, he would not bother to bring any gifts to please anyone. But this is his woman's natal family after all. Although the family is not kind to Tan Kinja, Suliang feels that this is his first time going home and meeting his mother-in-law. You still need to have the courtesy you should have. However, Tan Kinja still shook her head, there's no need for that. As long as you and I arrive, that's enough. Okay, I'll do whatever you want. Suliang nodded and no longer struggled with this issue. Immediately. After thinking about it for a while, Suliang asked again, is it enough for just the 2 of us to go to your house this time? Nodding, Tan Kinja glanced at everyone and smiled, it's not that Kinja doesn't want to take the sisters back, but after all, the Tan family is a big family with many rules and restrictions. The sisters may not be able to endure it. Besides, I don't know what will happen if I go there this time, so I'd better not take my sisters into this muddy water. But as soon as Tan Kinja finished speaking, Wan Qing coughed twice and said calmly, well, Kinja, as your nominal aunt, I will follow you back. But Tan Kinja was a little hesitant. Don't I hate this kind of rule and restraint the most? Don't worry. With my cultivation, auntie, if I don't want to do something, no one in this world can force me to do it. Wan Qing waved her hand, looking nonchalant. Besides, it's a long way to the Middle Earth, and there are many dangers. Although you and your good disciple are very strong, they are not so arrogant after all. It is inevitable that you will encounter some dangers. As my aunt, I reluctantly follow you to protect your safety. How about that? Hearing this, Tan Kinja and Suliang looked at each other and smiled. After getting along so far, how could they not guess Wan Qing's thoughts? Well, if I can have my aunt, master, follow me, no matter what happens, I should have some confidence and a way out. Then Tan Kinja nodded, then I'll trouble my aunt. However, Qin Benjao and others on the side were a little unhappy when they heard this. Master, why can Sister Wanking go, but I can't? I'm your disciple. Ahem, well, as Master's disciple, it is normal to visit Master's home this time, right? Master, why are you so embarrassed not to take me with you? Ying Kaoj looked calm. Well, as Benjao's sister, since Benjao is going, it is necessary for me to follow Yi to protect Benjao's safety. Qin Wanyu smiled gently. After all, I am still the Queen Mother of Daxia in name. Since Kaoj and Benjao, the two younger members of the royal family, have gone with me, how can I, as the elder, rest assured? If I follow you together, that's also true. It should be, right? See this. Mu Qingqian and Tao Yaoyao looked at each other with disgusted expressions, and then said in unison, I want to go too. Immediately, Mu Qingqian pointed at Tao Yaoyao, this witch is looking for death all day long without knowing her own abilities. If senior brother Su is not here, it is inevitable that the two of us will fight, which will be very annoying. Tao Yaoyao glared at Mu Qingqian nonchalantly, huh, violent woman, without brother Suliang, look at how I will punish you. Obviously, if they were the only two people left at home, they would probably fight each other every day. Maybe when Suliang and others come back, the mansion will be destroyed by the two of them. Listening to the various excuses of the girls and looking at the different expressions of the girls, Suliang rubbed his eyebrows. Do you want to go so much? Do you really think we are going to have fun this time? Tan's house is not necessarily a good place to go. Moreover, there are so many excuses. At first glance, they always sound reasonable and difficult to refute. But no one is allowed to go. Suliang shook his head and immediately refused. How can this be done? None of you are allowed to go. Why? Qin Benjao became even more unhappy, bulging her cheeks and glaring at her man angrily. Suliang won't let me go, I won't be happy. It's okay if you're not happy. This matter is non-negotiable. Before Suliang could speak, Tan Kinja on the side waved her hand and said, get out of here, Aliang, auntie, I are not going to have fun this time. What are you doing with us? Besides, don't you yourselves know your relationship with Aliang? Hearing this, the women looked at each other in shock. For a moment, they didn't know what Tan Kinja's words meant. Tan Kinja explained, you all know my relationship with Aliang. Although my family doesn't treat me well, this time, after all, Aliang is going to meet my family. As for my aunt, she is both Aliang's master and my aunt. With these two identities, it's okay to follow her, but what about you? If you go together, I'm afraid it will be considered a blatant provocation. What will my parents think? My daughter will marry such a married man? Then there will be trouble. As soon as these words came out, even Suliang on the side nodded in agreement. At this time, the girls probably understood. It's true, we, who are either already husband's women, or are still flirting with him in various ways, are now following her to Sister Kinja's house in this capacity. Isn't this a provocation? Seeing that everyone slowly stopped and no longer asked to go with them, Tan Kinja showed an imperceptible smile. Hum, this time, I can finally have my Liang all to myself. Do you think I'm really afraid of provocation by not letting you go? Just kidding, my family treated me like that, so what if I provoke them? Isn't it because you want to monopolize the time with Liang? At this moment, Liang on the side pondered for a moment before saying, Kaoj was possessed by luck before, and resentment entered her body. Although there seems to be no problem at the moment, after all, the time is still short, and her condition needs continued attention. Furthermore, the situation of the Tan family is still unknown at this moment, and it may not be a good thing to move on from here, so, you just stay here. After hearing this, the girls could only agree and nodded in agreement. Above the sky, two bright sword lights suddenly flew past, as fast as thunder. Pedestrians below only had time to see an afterimage before the sword lights disappeared. But above the two sword lights, there were three people flying with swords. It was Suliang, Tan Kinja, and Wan Qing from the Tan family who were on their way. But Tan Kinja and Suliang wielded the same sword together, while Wan Qing was alone. So, my villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 385. All the way up to now, Wan Qing's face was cold and there was no smile at all. The reason why the scene occurred was because when setting off, Tan Kinja secretly flew into the sky with Suliang's sword, and then notified Wan Qing. The matter has become a foregone conclusion. Even if Wan Qing is reluctant, there is nothing she can do. Looking at Tan Kinja on the other side, nestled in the arms of her good disciple, laughing, Wan Qing's face turned even colder. That should be my place. Ah, Tan Kinja, when our swordsmanship stops, watch how I deal with you. On the other sword, Suli held Tan Kinja tightly in his arms, feeling helpless. What's going on with my sister? When she is at home, she looks graceful, elegant, luxurious, and looks like a cold and dignified strong woman. But what now? Not long after you left home, you just let your nature go. Just now, my sister even pulled me, trying to fall from the sky. Can you believe it? Alien Liang, look down quickly. The scenery is beautiful. Let's go down and have a look. Tan Kinja looked at the forest waterfall below, with excitement on her face and bright eyes. Wow, I don't know what it feels like to fall down the water from the top of the waterfall. Hearing this, Suliang was completely stunned. My sister, do you want to see the scenery? You clearly regard yourself as scenery, right? Falling from the waterfall along with the water flow, thank you for being able to figure out how to do it. Isn't this too exciting? Ahem, sister, we have to hurry now. If we want to play, we'd better play when we get back. Suliang quickly hugged Tan Kinja, kissed her gently on the face, and persuaded her softly, which finally made Tan Kinja quiet down. And this time, Suliang really didn't dare to let go anymore. He had a feeling that if he let go of his hand, his sister would disappear with a whoosh. Seeing this, Wan Qing on the side snorted, my good disciple, please leave her alone and let her go crazy. Huh, how dare you plot against my aunt like this? Hearing Wan Qing's voice, Tan Kinja immediately looked over. Then, she gave Suliang a provocative look, turned around and kissed Suliang hard. Then, Tan Kinja snuggled into Suliang's arms and looked at Wan Qing with a smile. Oh, my aunt is so miserable. At least she still has Liang with her. She talked, laughed, kissed, and hugged her along the way. It's not lonely, but my aunt is alone. Even if you want to talk to us, auntie has to fly over with a sword. Tisk tisk, it's really pitiful. Thank you for your hard work, auntie. Hiss. Suliang immediately took a breath of cold air and could barely control the sword under his feet. Is my sister crazy? Isn't this a bit too bold? She even dares to provoke master? Are you looking for death? Has sister forgotten how badly she was taught by her master before? Really? Wan Qing's face quickly turned cold and she said nothing, only making Yu Jian move much faster. But vaguely, Suliang could see the hidden murderous intention in his master, which was about to pierce the sky. Sister, wish yourself well. Suliang looked at his sister with some pity and said nothing more. Soon, it was noon. 2 sword lights fell in the woods. Between the sword lights, the surrounding trees were cleared away, leaving a large open space. Then, Suliang cleaned up the prey, set up a bonfire, and started making lunch. And during this whole process, Tan Kinja was nestled in Suliang's arms and never came down. After a while, Suliang roasted a piece of meat and blew off the temperature before handing it to Wan Qing. Master, please taste it. Wan Qing nodded, stretched out her jade hand, and wanted to take it. But the next moment, Tan Kinja cut off Hu directly, grabbed it in her hand, and stuffed it into her mouth with a moan. Well, Yang, don't worry about my aunt. After all, she is the master of Shangzong, one of the few great masters in the world. Don't you even know how to barbecue? See this. Suliang swallowed hard, feeling that his sister might have gone crazy. It was okay to provoke the master when he was wielding a sword before, but now he dares to provoke him. This courage is beyond bounds. Ahem, master. Suli opened his mouth to beg for mercy for his sister. However, just as he opened his mouth, the person in front of him disappeared. Snapped. A crisp voice sounded, and Wan Qing saw that Tan Kinja had already been caught in her hands, pressed on her legs, crackling, and began to lecture. Why, you won't be you when you are about to go home? I have repeatedly provoked my aunt, and I really thought that my aunt was. Don't I dare to deal with you? Wan Qing said in a cold voice. Ah, aunt, you are capable of beating me to death. Tan Kinja struggled wildly with her hands and legs. Huh, if you really beat me seriously, I don't have to go back. Hearing this, Wan Qing raised her hand and was stunned. Even Suliang was stunned. For a while, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly fell silent, leaving only the crackling firewood. After a while, Suliang stood up, silently took his sister from his master, held her in his arms, and said softly, Sister, the more you act like this, the more it shows that you have a guilty conscience and you care. Just going home. In fact, Suli had already noticed some clues from the beginning. After all, my sister is not such an overly lively person, so how could she change her temperament and liberate her nature as soon as she leaves home? My sister was making such a fuss, as if she wanted to relieve the tension in her heart, but also as if she was trying to create some trouble to delay her return home, or to not go back at all. And listening to Suliang's words, Tan Kinja shrank into Suliang's arms and became unusually cautious. She didn't even know whether she should hug her man. She actually wanted to explain, but I couldn't speak at all. Because she knew that what her man said was true. Sure enough, even if my family treats me like this, I will still care. Thinking in her heart, Tan Kinja's eyes flashed with rare sadness and anxiety, which she had never experienced before. Holding her man's arm tightly, Tan Kinja said softly, Yang, what should I do? For Tan Kinja, home has always been confusing. Don't worry, sister, I'm here. Suliang hugged Tan Kinja tightly and smiled gently. Volume 1 Chapter 366, Being Shut Out, a standard plot to break off the engagement. Middle-earth, outside Tan's house. Suliang and the other 3 fell from the sky very far away, and then walked on foot and arrived here. These 1,000-year-old families have large formations on the outside to protect them. If we fly in with our swords, we may be shot down before we reach them. Wan Qing said calmly, although this kind of large formation is not a big threat to me, after all, this time we are going home and visiting in name, so we cannot directly break the formation. On the contrary, it will hurt the harmony and tear the face. After hearing this, Suliang nodded, expressing his understanding, and then raised his head and looked forward. I saw. The mountains ahead stood one after another, towering into the clouds. Between the misty clouds, it seemed that some buildings could be seen in the clouds. Turning around, Suliang asked Wan Qing, "Master, how long do we have until we reach the area where the Tan family is?" "How much longer?" Wan Qing smiled and shook her head. "Since the moment we landed, we have been within the scope of the Tan family. The 1,000-year-old family is so luxurious and huge that it cannot be accommodated in any city or town, and they naturally disdain to associate with those mortals. Look, on these mountain peaks, there are branches of the Tan family everywhere, and even buildings with various functions." After saying that, Wan Qing continued walking forward. Suliang followed him, glanced behind him, and sighed in his heart. It is worthy of being a 1,000-year-old family. This family occupies countless times more space than Tiandao sect. It's simply incomparable. After walking for a long time, Suliang and the others finally arrived at the home of the Tan family. Looking around, a simple gate stands in front of you. The courtyard wall extends to both ends, extending to a position that is out of sight, but it is still continuous and extends too far. Whether it is the gate, the courtyard wall, or the stone pillars under the door, they are all shining with a shimmering light, exuding a mysterious atmosphere, highlighting the extraordinary nature of these building materials. On it, countless mysterious runes and patterns were engraved, and these runes and patterns formed something that Suliang couldn't understand, but it exuded an extremely powerful and dangerous aura. Looking up, through the tall courtyard walls, Suliang could vaguely see many towering buildings that exuded an ancient atmosphere. Countless powerful auras extend from the aristocratic family, which makes people feel a lot of pressure. The number of high-level experts and young pride among them is no less than that of some sects. This is the Millennium family. Suliang felt a little emotional. The whole family looked simple, but it was mysterious and powerful, making people admired. This kind of style is really hard to find in the world. As for Tiandao sect, nothing can be compared, nothing can be compared. While Suliang was admiring the elegant style of the aristocratic family, Tan Qinja had already stepped forward, pulled the door knocker, and patted it a few times. The door knocker slapped on the door, but no sound was made, but within it, there was a mysterious power that had extended to the family as a notification. Soon, the door was opened, and an old man with the aura of the dragon transformation realm opened the door and took a look outside. "Hey, Miss Qinja, are you back?" "Miss, please wait a moment, I will inform the head of the family right away." Immediately, the door was closed again. Seeing this, Tan Qinja's face became darker and darker. Even Wan Qing sneered, "Tisk tisk, actually, my sister should have received the news from the time we stepped into the Tan family's territory, but now, she is still here, obviously trying to stop us." "Master? Sister?" Suliang asked with some confusion. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 386. That's Qinja's mother, the head of the Tan family, concubine Tan. Wan Qing introduced at any time. "I see." Suliang nodded, finally knowing who his mother-in-law was. And after waiting for a long time. Squeak. The door was opened again, and a beautiful figure walked out of the door. Jianying's face is very similar to Tan Kinja, but compared to Tan Kinja, it is more cold and solemn, and her plump figure is not inferior to Tan Kinja's peak and tall figure. She is indescribably majestic and solemn. Jianying just stood there, and a strong sense of oppression was faintly conveyed. Even a look or a movement from her could double the sense of oppression, making it full of intimidation. And this beautiful figure is none other than Tan Kinja's mother, the current head of the Tan family, concubine Tan. Mother. Tan Kinja bit her red lips, her expression a little complicated, but she still stepped forward and saluted respectfully. However, facing her daughter, concubine Tan just glanced at her lightly. Although her voice was cold, her words were full of disgust. I have been away for a few years, but I have only become like this. Kinja, you still know how to come back. It's better to stay outside than to come back and be laughed at. If this attitude were to others, even some people from the sidelines, as the head of Tan Fei's family, it wouldn't make people feel out of place. But at this moment, she is facing her daughter. This seems extremely indifferent. Wait while we go. Before Tan Kinja could speak, concubine Tan said indifferently, and then turned to look at Suliang. Moment. Suliang only felt that a solemn, majestic, and powerful sense of oppression came upon him, as if it was going to crush him. However, Suliang has never admitted defeat. In the past, neither the Yinghuo Zimei, nor the so-called Yinghuo Lord, nor Tao Yaoyao's transcendent mother, could ever overwhelm Suliang with just his breath. Not to mention concubine Tan. Crunch, crunch. Despite the sound of trembling bones coming from his body, Suliang's expression remained unchanged and he stood firmly on the spot. Concubine Tan seemed to have never thought about defeating Suliang like this, so she did not exert any more pressure. She spoke indifferently and directly began to accuse him harshly. Suliang, practicing till now may mean that you are talented, but how dare a so-called genius from a small sect dare to provoke my daughter of the Tan family? How do you deserve my daughter? Hearing this, Suliang smiled faintly. To be honest, I didn't know that my sister was from such a big family before, so there is no need to worry about what I am planning. My feelings for my sister are very pure and not hypocritical. As for whether she deserves it or not, it's not up to others to decide. I have already proven to my sister that I, Suliang, am worthy of her. After saying these words, Tan Kinja's eyes flashed with tears and she was deeply moved. Humph, sharp teeth and sharp mouth. Concubine Tan said calmly, and then threw a test to Suliang. If you want to enter my Tan family, you have to pass the test. If you can pass the test, I will let you in, so what's the problem? However, Volume 1 Chapter 367 The conflict between mother and daughter, is it really just looking down upon? Hearing this, Tan Kinja was unhappy. Obviously her man was worried about her, so he accompanied her back, but he was bullied in all kinds of ways outside the house. How could she bear this? Liang, let's go, we won't go in. Tan Kinja took Suliang's hand and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, Suliang didn't move at all. Thank you sister for your kindness, but please allow me to refuse. Suliang said calmly, with a gentle and confident smile on his face, I am here to help my sister regain her face. Seeing Tan Kinja's worried face, Suliang touched Tan Kinja's hair and said with a smile, don't worry, sister, it's just a small trial, I don't take it to heart. Sister, you have watched me grow up with your own eyes. Don't you still understand me? Listening to Suliang's words, Tan Kinja hesitated for a moment, and finally nodded, that's okay, but, Liang, you must be careful. With that said, Tan Kinja stepped forward and hugged Suliang gently, even if I can never return to the family in this life, I don't want you to be harmed in any way. I know. Suliang patted Tan Kinja on the back, I know my sister cares about me. In this case, I can't embarrass my sister and embarrass her, right? Say it. Suliang let go of Tan Kinja, held his hands behind his back, and walked to concubine Tan with a calm expression. Mrs. Tan, I don't know what the test is. You do have some courage. If an ordinary person heard that he was going to go through the trials of my Tan family, he would have run away in fear. Concubine Tan's voice was still cold and majestic. It's just the confusion array of my Tan family. I have arranged the confusion array in the entrance corridor. As long as you can walk out of the confusion array, you will be qualified. Go enter the door of my Tan family. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of everyone watching from the Tan family, including Tan Kinja and Wan Qing, changed. No. Tan Kinja immediately stepped forward and pulled Suliang. We can't let Ailiang walk into the mind-confusing formation. Do you want Ailiang to die in it? Even Wan Qing sighed. The confusion array is indeed a bit outrageous. Is this arrangement appropriate? Even the surrounding Tan family members were talking a lot. They looked at Suliang with some teasing and contempt in their eyes. When the mind-bewitching array was mentioned, this teasing and contempt turned into fear. Whether he passes the test or fails, it is his own choice. Concubine Tan said calmly, her voice extremely indifferent, if you don't dare to break in, just leave. I won't stop you. But if you want to enter my Tan family, you have to do this. Hearing this, Tan Kinja bit her red lips, took 2 steps back, and came to Suliang's side. Ailiang, let's leave. Why? Suliang was a little puzzled. Sister, master, what exactly is this confusing mind array? Wan Qing, who was on the side, took a deep look at concubine Tan, and then introduced, the so-called confused heart formation, is a formation owned by the Tan family. It is unpredictable and cannot be arranged unless someone has great attainments in the formation. And because the effect is terrifying and effective, it has been used by the Tan family for testing. At this point, Wan Qing fell into memories. The so-called confusion formation, the key point is the word confusion. This formation ignores the realm, but targets your inner demons. Entering it, there is no difference whether it is the physical realm or the immortal realm. Treat everyone equally. In this way, maybe the physical realm that has just entered the path of cultivating immortals will be more advantageous than the immortal realm. After all, many inner demons become more and more powerful as your cultivation level increases. Then what? Suliang asked curiously. It was just for the inner demons. How could it be possible for his sister and master to show such solemn expressions? There is a special energy in the confusion array that can materialize and manifest your inner demons. Wan Qing sighed, the more powerful the inner demon is, the stronger this entity will be, and the more real the scene will be. If you fall into it, or die in the hands of your inner demon, even if you don't die, you will also become stupid and it will be difficult to recover. When I was in the Tan family, I didn't know how many senior officials I saw with advanced cultivation, as well as talented and brilliant arrogant men who entered the battle, and either died there, or were stupid and incurable, with no future in cultivation. Totally useless. Since the emergence of this formation, there have been countless people participating in it, and the number of people who have been able to pass it is less than 10. Therefore, this confusing formation has frightened generations of people in the Tan family, and they even avoid talking about it. My dear disciple, do you really think you can pass this formation? After hearing this, Suliang's expression gradually became serious. The foundation of the Tan family is really profound. Just a formation can be so terrifying and difficult. By using this formation as my entry test, it was obvious that they didn't want me to enter. But, for the sake of my sister, how could I back down? The solemn expression disappeared. Suliang smiled at Tan Kinja, and then walked straight to the door of Tan's house. And the moment he stepped into the Tan family door, everything around you has changed. A burst of fog enveloped Suliang, blocking his sight. After a while, the fog dissipated, and the scene in front of him became completely different from before. However, this change was not abrupt at all, but it was extremely consistent with the scene when he entered the door before. This feeling was as if Suliang had passed the test and successfully entered the Tan family. No matter who comes, when they see this scene, they will probably be addicted to it. However, Suliang smiled slightly and murmured softly, "It's just some inner demon fantasy. Do you really think you can stop me? Let's disperse." After saying that, Suliang waved his hand, the illusion was broken, and the scene in front of him quickly receded. The fog shrouded again, but Suliang was not affected at all. He identified a direction and strode forward. But at this moment, a scream sounded from Suliang's mouth, and then, a thick black mist appeared from it, and it was about to break away and attack Suliang. A mere inner demon wants to devour the Lord. Suliang shouted softly, "Let's go." As soon as the words fell, the inner demons that had just been condensed disappeared in an instant like being struck by lightning. At this time, the thick fog in front of his eyes completely dissipated, revealing everything around him. Suliang glanced down and saw that he had walked out of the confusion array. Moreover, he passed the level perfectly and his clothes were spotless. Seeing this, the people from the Tan family who were watching were simply shocked. This kid is so terrifying. He was able to pass through the confusion formation so smoothly, this strength and character are really too strong. As expected of the person brought back by the young lady, he is indeed extraordinary. I think that with the combined efforts of several generations of our Tan family, there are very few people who can pass as smoothly as he did. This gap is too big. So, just by breaking into the formation, everyone in the Tan family started to look at Suliang with admiration. Previously, they just thought that Suliang was a loser who relied on women to show off his power and plotted against their Tan family, so they flirted with Miss Kinja. But now, this impression has changed. At least, rubbish can't pass through the confusion array. After all, even they can't pass it and don't dare to challenge it. They have discovered that this Suliang does not seem to be as bad as they expected. At the same time, looking at Suliang who had walked into the door of Tan's house, concubine Tan also had a flash of appreciation in her eyes, which passed quickly. This touch of appreciation was accurately captured by Suliang. Then, Suliang began to have some doubts. You use such a formation to test me, but you still admire me? Moreover, looking at this result, because I passed the formation, it has changed some of my impressions of the Tan family. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 387. It seems to be making things difficult, but in reality, it's more than that. Thinking intently, Suliang discovered that there seemed to be something hidden about his sister. Tan family. After some twists and turns, Suliang was finally able to enter the Tan family's door. After Suliang, Tan Kinja and Wan Qing also entered the Tan family without any hindrance. However, for them, entering the Tan family is just the beginning. Tan Kinja walked in front and followed concubine Tan all the way to concubine Tan's courtyard. Suliang had not been assigned a place to live, so naturally he could only follow concubine Tan. Mother. Tan Kinja called concubine Tan and sat aside, minding her own business. Why did the family ask me to come back this time? However, concubine Tan, who heard her daughter's voice, just glanced sideways at Tan Kinja and said indifferently, "Do I allow you to sit down?" Hearing this, Tan Kinja was stunned for a moment. This is too much. When I go back to my home, why can't I sit down? Simply, Tan Kinja stood up directly, came to concubine Tan, and asked again, "Mother, why did the family ask me to come back? Was it you who asked me to come back, or someone else?" But this time, concubine Tan, on the other hand, stopped making any movement and drank tea by herself without saying a word to Tan Kinja. This time, Tan Kinja felt even more aggrieved. "Mother, you." Tan Kinja bit her red lips and said, seeing her mother not even looking at her, pretending that she didn't exist, her eyes turned slightly red, and she sneered, "Okay, I'll go to the head office, right? Anyway, you've never been kind to me, you've always been like this to me. I think I'm just here to be superfluous." After saying that, he turned around, pulled Suliang, and was about to leave. Ahem. Suliang coughed twice in embarrassment, approached Tan Kinja and asked, "Sister, I think, why don't you and Madam talk again? After all, we are a family." "No, let's go." Tan Kinja shook her head and took a few steps forward, but suddenly thought of something, turned around and asked, "Do you still have my room and my yard? You haven't returned home for many years, so naturally you have to give it to someone else." This time, concubine Tan spoke, but the words she said almost made Tan Kinja cry. "Even if I haven't been home for a long time, I can still be considered a member of the Tan family, but you gave even my place to others. Did you never intend to ask me back? Do you still think that I am a member of the Tan family? Call." Taking a deep breath, Tan Kinja said again, "Then, at least arrange a place for me, Ailiang, my aunt and the three of us. I will stay in the family for a few days, and I should have a place to live." "Okay. Figure it out yourself." Concubine Tan took a sip of tea and said without looking at Tan Kinja. "Figure it out yourself?" Moment. Tan Kinja felt that she couldn't bear it anymore. From the moment she walked into this house, she has been ignored by her mother. Her words will be ignored. All requests, even the simple ones, cannot be fulfilled. Even the yard where she used to live is gone. He was completely unpopular with his mother. However, this was actually not what Tan Kinja expected, and she could bear it. After all, she was used to it. She was treated like this at home. That's why she hated coming back. She hated coming back to this place called home, but in fact it was a big cage. But this time, she traveled thousands of miles to come back with her man, but she was made things difficult for her at every turn. Finally, Tan Kinja couldn't hold herself any longer. "It's always been like this." Tan Kinja's voice was slightly cold. "Mother, you have never liked me. You have been very harsh and cold to me since I was very young. It seems that you never regard me as your daughter. No matter how good I behave and how I try to please you, you have never shown me even the slightest bit of warmth or smile. Mother, I really want to ask you, what on earth did I do wrong?" After finishing her words, Tan Kinja looked at her mother blankly, wanting to get an answer from concubine Tan. However, to her disappointment, concubine Tan had been drinking tea by herself, and even called her subordinates to give an insignificant order, but she had no intention of paying attention to Tan Kinja. At this moment, Tan Kinja only felt a little tired. At this moment, concubine Tan suddenly said, "If you were a boy, I wouldn't treat you like this." "Is that so? It turns out, my birth may have been a mistake from the beginning." Tan Kinja smiled bitterly and shook her head. "Maybe I should say that I'm sorry for being born a girl." After that, Tan Kinja took Suliang and left here without waiting for concubine Tan's response. Subsequently, the discomfort in Ninja Tan Kinja's heart led Suliang to wander around for a long time before he finally found a free place and settled down. In the room. From the moment she came back, Tan Kinja sat on the chair, stunned and silent. "See this?" Suliang sighed, walked up to Tan Kinja, put his sister into his arms, patted her head and comforted her. "Sister, don't be unhappy. Who says women are inferior to men? As far as I know, there is no such thing. There are several men who can compare with my sister. A person's achievements have nothing to do with gender. Why does my sister have to worry about such an insignificant thing? Volume 1 Hashtag Chapter 368 Strong Intervention, you found a good man. But, mother, she. Tan Kinja said bitterly. In fact, she still cared about concubine Tan very much. After all, she was her mother. Okay, sister, don't be unhappy. Suliang lowered his head, kissed Tan Kinja's forehead, and said with relief, Sister, at least you have found a good man. Look, isn't your life complete? After hearing this, Tan Kinja finally couldn't help but laughed. Alien, you know how to make me happy. Tan Kinja rolled her eyes cutely, buried her head in Suliang's arms, and stopped talking, but she was very moved in her heart. Thank you, Ailiang. Fortunately, I have you by my side. Otherwise, I don't know if I can survive this time when I go home. The next day, Tan Kinja took Suliang and the two of them around the Tan family. Although the Tan family had a very subtle attitude toward Tan Kinja and Suliang because of concubine Tan, after all, they were just visiting, and no one could return. Those with long eyes come to stop them. Even if concubine Tan treats Tan Kinja badly, Tan Kinja is still the eldest lady of the Tan family. The two of them walked in Tan's house, chatting and laughing. Looking at the familiar scenery, many memories emerged from Tan Kinja's mind, which diluted a lot of her sadness. At this moment, Suliang looked at the lively crowd in front and asked curiously, Sister, what are you doing in front? Why is it so lively? Glancing ahead, Tan Kinja counted the days and recalled, on the arena in front, it seems that the Tan family's 5-year competition is going on, which is quite lively. Hearing this, Suliang frowned slightly. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly laughed and said, Sister, let's go and participate in the competition. What do you think? It's just an internal competition within the Tan family. Why did Ailiang think of participating in this? Tan Kinja looked at Suliang curiously and asked. No, it's not participation, it's intervention. This is different. Suliang shook his head, patted Tan Kinja's head, and said with a smile, Sister, please wait here for a while. I'll be back as soon as I go. Say it. Suliang walked slowly towards the direction of the competition arena. In fact, his desire to intervene in the competition was not just a whim. Anyway, he also wanted to find a way to start from scratch. Now that there is a method like Dabi that can be done openly and without talking about it, Suliang has no reason not to use it. After all, you have to stand up for your wife, right? From the moment he returned to Tan's house, Suliang felt very unhappy when he saw that Tan Kinja was being ignored by all kinds of difficulties in Tan's house. To be honest, Suliang is an outsider. If you have any problem, why don't you come to me? Why would you embarrass your sister who is also from the Tan family? Forget it about concubine Tan. After all, she is her sister's mother. After all, she is still Suliang's mother-in-law. Moreover, there may be some hidden secrets that Suliang doesn't know about, and it's hard for Suliang to interfere. But others cannot be so indulgent. Dare you bully my wife? Looking for death. Then, just on the ring, when one battle ended and another battle had not yet begun, Suliang jumped up and flew up. Are you the one brought back by the lady? As the referee, Elder Tan of the Tan family frowned and looked at Suliang. This is a big competition for my Tan family. It's not something you, an outsider, can interfere with. Get out of here. Hearing this, Suliang rolled his eyes. You also said that I am not from your Tan family, so I will go down if you ask me to. Don't I want to lose face? After that, regardless of the referee, his eyes swept over the faces of everyone in the Tan family, with a somewhat sarcastic smile on their faces. Oh, the Tan family is very cold to their own ladies, but not so cold to an outsider like me. I am so tough that I only dare to scold, Tisk tisk, the so-called 1,000-year-old family is nothing more than that. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the Tan family changed their expressions. Boy, you are seeking death. Someone yelled angrily. If you want to kill me, come up yourself. Suliang came to the crowd with his hands behind his back and said loudly, I, Suliang, will defeat the entire Tan family today. Of course, I won't bully you young proud people. Just speak out for your Mesozoic generation. As he spoke, Suliang felt a sense of domineering coming over him. His words were so passionate that at this moment, the entire Tan family was shocked. How dare you single-handedly shake the majesty of the Tan family? This is courting death. How many years have we, the Tan family, not been provoked like this? Immediately, a peer of the same age as Suliang walked out of the crowd and volunteered, Tan family, Tan Wushuan, please fight. Bold maniac, let me show you how tyrannical our Tan family is. This is not something you, an outsider, can provoke. Say it. Tan Wushuan unsheathed his sword and jumped onto the ring. Seeing this, everyone in the Tan family immediately burst into cheers, and even the elders and senior officials looked much better. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 388. This child Wushuan is a hidden dragon monster that is rare to see in a century. How can a person from a small sect who hugged the eldest lady's lap be his opponent? The first elder stroked his beard and said with a smile, not even thinking that his monster might fail. Exactly. Another elder smiled and echoed, let this bold man see what is called the heritage of a 1,000-year-old family. Let's see if he dares to provoke. You. Not enough. Suliang shook his head. Suddenly, an extremely powerful pressure burst out from him and headed towards Tan Wushuan. This coercion has long exceeded the limit that the immortal realm can bear. It is completely impossible for even the monsters of the immortal realm, let alone Tan Wushuan. This. But it's not Suliang's limit. If you can be in front of me, how about you win? Suliang put his hands behind his back and said calmly. How dare you underestimate me so much? Tan Wushuan roared angrily, but his voice seemed a little weak. The aura oppressing him was so powerful that he could hardly even speak. The coercion on his body was majestic, like an abyss or a sea, as if it were a substance. It was so heavy that he couldn't breathe, let alone fight, and he couldn't mobilize the true energy in his body. Now, just maintaining a standing posture is already very laborious for him, and his body is trembling a little. It is really difficult to lift his feet and take steps. Even though the 3 steps Suliang mentioned sounded crazy, only Tan Wushuan knew that he really might not even be able to take these 3 steps. This boy is obviously the same age as himself, why is he so strong? It's so strong. With difficulty, he raised his head and looked at Suliang, who was not far away with his hands behind his back and an enigmatic look. Tan Wushuan's heart was filled with disbelief. Volume 1 Chapter 369, Suppressing the Younger Generations of the Longevity Family, My Sister's Repayment. Listening to Tan Wushuan's words, Suliang said lightly, it's not that I underestimate you, but, your limit is no more than this. Hearing this, Tan Wushuan felt his blood surge and his anger reached the extreme. Even if he knew that what Suliang said was true, how could he endure this kind of humiliation? Ah, you brave maniac, don't underestimate others. Tan Wushuan roared angrily and tried his best. Veins popped up on his forehead and his face turned red. Finally, tremblingly, he raised one foot. Then, after taking a short step, Tan Wushuan no longer had the strength to continue, and his foot fell heavily. Boom! There was a muffled sound all over, and everyone looked over, only to see that Tan Wushuan had fallen to the ground exhausted, panting like an ox, his eyes were blood red, nosebleeds were flowing out, and his whole body was shaking uncontrollably. As a hidden dragon monster that is rare to encounter in the Tan family in a century, Tan Wushuan tried his best and finally managed to take a step. The moment they saw this scene, everyone was shocked and felt very unbelievable. How is this possible? Tan Wushuan is the genius of our Tan family. He uses all the top resources that our Tan family supplies in unlimited quantities. If thrown outside, he can be said to be invincible among his peers and has few rivals. It was so possible that he would lose so miserably in front of his peers from Xiaozong, and he had to spend all his energy just to take a step forward? How could this Suliang be so strong? Well, with your level of cultivation, it's pretty good that you can take a step in front of me. Suliang nodded and approved. However, it was obviously a compliment, but to the ears of the Tan family, it sounded wrong. It sounded even worse than a humiliation. After waving his hand and sweeping Tan Wushuan under the ring, Suliang turned his head and looked at everyone in the audience. Next moment. Boom! A powerful force of energy burst out. At this moment, Suliang, who was in the immortal realm, unleashed all his firepower without reservation. Who else wants to challenge me? Suliang's indifferent gaze swept across the audience, but there was silence. The coercion of the immortal realm broke out, and Suliang stood on the high stage, arrogantly looking at the scene. His face was plain, but he was extremely majestic and domineering. And this moment, swept away by the coercion of the immortal realm, the younger generation of the Tan family below felt like a towering mountain oppressing them, making it impossible for them to breathe. The bones all over his body were rattling, the true energy was tightly suppressed in the body was restrained in place, and even his eyelids could not move. At this moment, Suliang was overwhelming the younger generation of the Tan family. These young and proud sons of the Tan family did not even dare to take a breath, and were completely unable to move. As long as they relaxed a little, they would lie on the ground and never get up again. This is an absolutely terrifying gap. Although they were both of the younger generation and of the same age, Suliang was able to bully everyone to such an extent. Compared with Suliang, all the young and proud men from a 1,000-year-old family became a joke and overshadowed. At this moment, even the senior elders looked solemn. No matter how afraid or angry they are, they have to admit that facing the younger generation like Suliang, only the Mesozoic can fight. Damn it, how could this young man be so strong? What were they doing when they were the same age as Suliang? I'm afraid that the cultivation level can't even see the shadow of the immortal realm. Everyone is still vying for the position of genius in the family. Boy, don't be so arrogant. One person stood up, his face was slightly weathered, and he could see the traces of time. He was the younger generation of the Tan family. Boy, let me, Tan Ling, teach you a lesson. Tan Ling said, jumping up and onto the ring. Holding a long sword in his hand, Tan Ling said with a stern face, Boy, don't think that just because you are considered the top among the younger generation, you can be unscrupulous. Do you still want to challenge me, Tan's family? Okay, I, Tan Ling, will represent the living generation of the Tan family and let you see what a 1,000-year-old family is. Seeing this, everyone below was relieved. Huh, it's Uncle Tan Ling. Now, this kid is definitely no match for Uncle Tan Ling. A young proud man was talking to his companions. Uncle Tan Ling's cultivation strength is at the top of our generation in the Tan family. He can definitely defeat this arrogant boy named Suliang. After talking for a while, everyone looked eagerly at the stage, wanting to see how their elders beat Suliang. Boy, get down! Tan Ling shouted violently, slashed out the long knife in his hand, and a bright sword light suddenly shot out, as if the space was split open, and he headed towards Suliang very quickly. Next moment, Suliang suddenly stretched out two fingers and clamped the sword light in his hand. Is this the strength of your Mesozoic generation? Suliang smiled faintly, and suddenly flicked the sword, give it back to you. Boom. After a loud roar, the sword light flew back faster than when it came. In an instant, it hit Tan Ling, who had no time to react, and directly chopped Tan Ling off the ring. Next, Su Liang yawned, as if this battle was really boring, and said softly. His attitude made everyone in the Tan family even more angry. "How dare you, Shizi?" Another person jumped out, holding a spear, stepped onto the ring, and said coldly, "Boy, you bullied the younger generation of my Tan family, and injured my brother Ling. Do you really think you are invincible?" "I really didn't think so." Su Liang shook his head, "But you are really impatient." As soon as these words were said, the faces of the people on the stage sank, and everyone in the audience was in an uproar. This kid is too arrogant. He dares to speak like this in front of Uncle Tan Wangsuan. Is he looking for death? Oh, he is not from my Tan family, so how could he know that Uncle Wangsuan is the strongest person in our Tan family in this generation? Just look at it, Uncle Wangsuan has been angered, and next, this boy will be unlucky. There were various discussions among the people below, and they directly told all the details about Tan Wangsuan on the stage. The strongest person in the Mesozoic era? That's it? Su Liang looked at Tan Wangsuan in front of him, with a somewhat puzzled look on his face. "Humph, boy, don't you know that a disaster is coming, and yet you dare to be so provocative?" Tan Wangsuan snorted coldly, held the gun in both hands, twisted it violently, and attacked Su Liang with unparalleled power. Then, Su Liang grabbed the spear and punched back, knocking Tan Wangsuan to the point where he vomited blood and flew backwards. The spear in his hand was unsteady and Su Liang snatched it away. The strongest person in the Mesozoic era? That's it? Su Liang said again, with a calm expression. Sarcasm means fullness. However, this time, there was silence, and no one spoke anymore. They thought they could defeat Su Liang if they took action from the Mesozoic generation, but the two strongest men from the Mesozoic generation tried one after another, but to no avail, they were crushed and defeated by Su Liang. Even Tan Wangsuan, the strongest person in the Mesozoic era, lost to Su Liang. Looking around, no one in the entire Tan family, the Mesozoic era, and the younger generation was Su Liang's opponent. At this moment, Su Liang alone was overwhelming the Changsheng family, and no one in the Mesozoic era could hold their head high. At this time, I heard Su Liang say again, "With my strength, I can intervene in your Tan family's competition and defeat your Tan family alone. Is it enough?" After hearing this, no one responded, and the entire Tan family was speechless at this moment. To be fair, the Tan family, as a 1,000-year-old family, has many natural talents in the family, and there are also many people with realms beyond immortality. It is not that they cannot defeat Su Liang. But how much older are those who can defeat Su Liang than Su Liang? This group of people in the Mesozoic era were brutally tortured by Su Liang when they were only 10 years old. For the Tan family, it was already a great shame and humiliation, right? Do we really want a group of old men to go on stage and bully a young man? Say goodbye, the Tan family still wants to lose face. Besides, I heard that this person is Miss Wanqing's disciple. For a disciple with such a talent, Miss Wanqing will definitely pamper her dearly. If she really wanted to take a transcendental action, would Ms. Wanqing really have no temper? And at the same time, the female relatives of the Tan family looked at Su Liang, but there was something different in their eyes. That's full of envy. To be fair, a mere young man has the guts to intervene in the Tan family competition, provoke a 1,000-year-old family, and even beat the 1,000-year-old family to such an extent that no one in the middle generation or the younger generation dares to say anything anymore. This kind of strength, this kind of courage, this kind of behavior is already extremely rare in the world, it is simply unique. Not to mention, Su Liang did all these things just to stand up for Tan Qinja and couldn't bear to see Tan Qinja being bullied. This makes these women even more envious. He has strength, courage, and unlimited future. In terms of appearance, he is even more handsome. But emotionally, he is considerate and protective of his shortcomings. For the sake of his wife, he dares to break the rules. Oh, how did Kinja find such a good man? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 389. There are not many such good men in the whole world, right? I was very envious. I just wanted to snatch Suliang away and make him my own. Suliang was fighting on the stage, and a group of female relatives gathered around Tan Kinja, chattering non-stop. Kinja, where did you find such a good man? Is there any extra here? How about, let's be sisters for once? Hiss, in order to stand up for Kinja, he actually dared to cause such a big thing in a 1,000-year-old family. This courage and cultivation are really amazing. Where can such high-quality boyfriend resources be obtained? Found it? Kinja, tell me, how did you and this Suliang get together? I envy you so much that you were able to find such a good man. Behind the scenes, all the female relatives were very envious. You guys are joking, my Liang's abilities are not just that. Tan Kinja showed her first heartfelt smile since arriving at Tan's house. She was both touched and proud. Look, the man on the stage who single-handedly suppressed the entire Tan family is my man, Tan Kinja. He, in order to stand up for me, would really do anything. Thank you, Liang. Seeing Suliang walking towards the side, Tan Kinja smiled, threw herself into Suliang's arms, and held Suliang tightly. The two of them were hugging each other like this in front of everyone. The couple of gods and gods made the scenery so beautiful that for a while, no one was willing to disturb them. After a while, sister, let's go for a walk. Suliang took Tan Kinja's hand and said with a smile. Okay. Tan Kinja said with a smile, feeling very good. All the Tan family members looked at Suliang's back, but no one said anything. Then, from this moment on, Suliang's prestige in the Tan family has reached an unprecedented height. Suliang has single-handedly suppressed a 1,000-year-old family. At this moment, Suliang has silently established himself in the Tan family, and is known as Detective Tan. Everyone from the head of the family to the 7-year-old boy knows clearly that Tan Kinja has found an extraordinary man. Then, in the afternoon, Suliang and Tan Kinja walked together in Tan's house and wandered around. At this moment, several masters from the previous generation of the Tan family happened to pass by the two of them. And the moment I saw Suliang, the contempt that the Tan family had towards Suliang before had completely disappeared, replaced by a touch of respect. After bending down and bowing to Suliang, the two of them left. Suliang was a little confused at this scene. How did Suliang know that since the morning battle in the arena, no one in the entire Tan family dared to look down on Suliang anymore? They would even salute respectfully when passing by Suliang. One by one, they were very impressed that Tan Kinja could find such a man. From a distance, Suliang could vaguely hear the two departing Tan family members admiring these things. In the bathroom, Suliang was soaking in the bathtub, leaning on something behind him, closing his eyes slightly, looking comfortable and enjoying himself. At this moment, a pair of slender hands held the wine glass and handed it over from behind Suliang. Liang, this is warm wine. It has been soaked in the pool for a long time. Why don't you drink some to quench your thirst? Listening to the voice, it is Tan Kinja. Yeah, okay. Suliang nodded, moved his head back, and fell into the soft and elastic trap, unable to extricate himself. Immediately afterwards, Tan Kinja slowly handed the wine glass to Suliang's mouth and gently fed it in. The whole process went smoothly, and Tan Kinja took great care of Suliang. Putting the wine glass aside, Tan Kinja lay on Suliang's back. She lost her wrapping peak and squeezed tightly on Suliang. With the unique smoothness and softness of facial cleanser, she wiped Suliang bit by bit. Get dressed. Okay, sister, if you are tired, take a rest. Suliang patted Tan Kinja's arm and said with some distress. Serving my Liang, how can I be tired? Tan Kinja smiled and slowly moved to Suliang. She put her arms around Suliang's neck and her plump legs around Suliang's waist. Hanging slightly, Tan Kinja fell down a little, and just in time, the golden wind and jade dew gently touched the top of the peak. Liang, thank you these days. Tan Kinja leaned close to Suliang's ear and murmured softly, but she fell deeper and deeper. Actually, this was all my business. Whether it was my mother's troubles or your previous defeat of everyone in the Tan family, it was all for me. My sister has no way of repaying this kind of kindness, so she can only promise it with her own body. I wonder if Mr. Husband is willing to accept it. While speaking, Tan Kinja stared at Suliang with tender eyes, and gently touched Suliang's cheek with one hand, with infinite tenderness that made people fall in and never get out. Well, sister and I are family, why do we care so much? Suliang said with a smile, but then the conversation changed. However, I will accept my sister's promise. The words fell. Just in time, Tan Kinja completely let go of her strength and fell heavily. In Concubine Tan's room, Wan Qing sat opposite Concubine Tan and looked at her sister helplessly. Sister, Kinja finally came back for once. Isn't it a bit too much for you to be so difficult? Wan Qing couldn't help but said, I know what you want to do, but you also have to know that enough is enough and going too far is not enough. If you go too far and cause irreparable consequences, Kinja will probably hate you for the rest of her life. So what? Concubine Tan still had that indifferent feeling and murmured, I would rather she hate me than stay. Why bother? Wan Qing rubbed her eyebrows with a headache. I know my sister's concerns very well, and I also understand what my sister wants to do. But, let me put it bluntly, my sister's choice may not be what Kinja wants. Besides, Kinja has grown up now, and she always knows what is right and wrong. Even if she feels resentment towards you now, it's just because of my sister's attitude towards her before. It may not be possible for you two to reconcile. Why make up? Concubine Tan directly interrupted Wan Qing's words, this is now, enough. After hearing this, Wan Qing finally couldn't help it anymore and said dissatisfiedly, sister is not a person with this kind of temper. Aren't you tired of pretending for so many years? So, sister can't tear off the disguise. Kinja may not be able to understand her sister. Unexpectedly, as soon as she said these words, Concubine Tan rejected her, I have never pretended, so why should I break the disguise? Hearing this, Wan Qing was speechless. To be honest, she is really helpless now at the stupidity of her sister in this life. There was obviously a better way to achieve all this, but she had to choose such a dead end. Isn't this stupid? But no matter what, I can't persuade him at all. In fact, Wan Qing knew the deep meaning of Concubine Tan's behavior, and she also knew why Concubine Tan had to do this. She actually does it all for the sake of her daughter. For her daughter, even if she is misunderstood, resented, or scarred, she doesn't care. But, sister, why can't you be more tolerant of yourself? Early in the morning, just as Suliang woke up, he heard a lot of noise and people outside, as if something big was about to happen. What's going on here? Suliang glanced at the still warm bed next to him in confusion, got up, and after getting dressed, he opened the door and took a look. But I saw it. Countless Tan family members, from the old-looking elders to the masters in their prime from the Mesozoic era, to the young geniuses, all gathered together and hurriedly walked in the same direction. As they walked, These people were talking about something, but with so many people talking, the sound was so confusing that Suliang couldn't hear what they were talking about. Volume 1 Hashtag Picture 370, prove to your family that your vision is right. Vaguely, I could only hear a few inexplicable words like bloodline, inheritance, and trial. Could it be that there was some chance that the secret realm was born? Suliang thought about it, his mind was confused. And just then, Tan Kinja just came back with some food in her hand. She took Suliang into the house first. After sitting down, she said, "Come on, Alyang, let's have breakfast first." "Well." Suliang nodded and asked while eating, "Sister, what happened outside? Why do you think those people are all going in the same direction? This is indeed a big deal for our Tan family." Tan Kinja looked at Suliang eating with a smile, not anxious at all. "Alyang, you also know that the source of our Tan family's bloodline is an immortal who ascended to the throne in the past." Suliang nodded. His master had told him about this matter, so Suliang naturally remembered it clearly. When that immortal ascended, he left a bloodline inheritance in his ancestral temple and set up a trial for future generations to obtain. Tan Kinja tilted her chin and did not rush Suliang, as if this so-called bloodline inheritance was not as important as Suliang's peaceful breakfast at this moment, and today, the bloodline inheritance in the ancestral temple has appeared, and the trial has also appeared, so the Tan family is now in a state of commotion, and everyone is rushing to the ancestral temple to obtain the inheritance from their ancestors. At this point, Tan Kinja shook her head and smiled, but they don't think that the inheritance is limited. After all, there are only a few people in the entire Tan family who can obtain it. No matter how anxious and nervous it is, what's the use? I see. Suliang looked confused and asked, "Can all Tan family members participate in this trial? Your mother didn't set any restrictions, right?" "Of course not." Tan Kinja replied. Hearing this, Suliang's eyes lit up, and he finished the food in a few mouthfuls. Then he took his sister's hand and followed the crowd. "Let's go, sister, let's go and have a look. Anyway, you are from the Tan family, people can also participate." Outside the ancestral temple. The ancestral temple, which is usually almost silent and hard to find, with only a few family elders guarding it, was so crowded today that it was almost impossible to squeeze in. Almost all the Tan family members rushed over after learning about the inheritance, intending to participate and try to pass the trial. After all, this is the inheritance left by the ancestors who ascended to immortality in the past. No matter how you think about it, it is very powerful. Maybe you can get a direct road to immortality? Especially at the entrance of the trial, countless Tan family members are vying to enter the trial and obtain the inheritance. After all, there are countless inheritances. If there is a person with amazing talent and beauty, he may be able to win it directly, but the people behind him will have no chance. This is not a resource distributed by the family every month and everyone can have it. At this moment, Suliang and Tan Kinja finally arrived here. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 390. The two squeezed into the crowd. When people walking on both sides saw clearly that it was Suliang and Tan Kinja, their eyes immediately filled with awe and they stepped away. After the previous Tan family competition, Suliang and Tan Kinja's status in the Tan family is quite extraordinary, especially for these Mesozoic and young people. They are even more in awe and admiration for Suliang. After finding a suitable position, Suliang and Tan Kinja looked in the direction of the trial entrance, only to see that Tan Wushuan, who was suppressed by Suliang's momentum yesterday and could only take one step forward, now took one step forward. "Uncles and grandfathers, Wushuan, go try it." Having said that, Tan Wushuan stepped into the trial. However, in just a few breaths, Tan Wushuan flew out of the trial. Seeing this, a burst of noise rang out from the crowd. But at this time, Tan Wangsuan stood up and said, "I'll give it a try." Then, he only managed to hold on for half a stick of incense before he fell out, already seriously injured and depressed. This time, the noise in the crowd became even louder. "See this?" Suliang frowned slightly, thought for a moment, and said softly, "Let's go, sister, I'll accompany you in." Immediately, he pulled Tan Kinja out of the crowd and walked straight towards the entrance of the trial. He planned to accompany Tan Kinja for a walk. The inheritance of the Tan family should belong to his sister. Suliang was not greedy. The reason why he wanted to enter was just to accompany his sister. However, even so, when he walked to the entrance of the trial, he was still blocked and turned away. After only half a step in, Suliang felt an extremely huge force, as if the sky was collapsing, covering him, making him unable to take another step forward. "Suliang, I know that you have good cultivation and have a close relationship with Kinja." An elder next to him said in a deep voice, "However, this blood inheritance must be from the blood of my Tan family. Otherwise, even if you can enter, you will have to walk under huge pressure, and you may die at any time." "Suliang, wait here, this is not a place you can go in. Won't you let me in?" Suliang raised his eyebrows and sneered, "It's just a difference in blood, but you want to stop me." Immediately, he said loudly, "I, Suliang, have never coveted the inheritance of the Tan family. I just want to accompany my wife to go through the trial. So, even if it's not your family's blood, so what? Say it." Suliang ignored his bloodline, stepped forward calmly, and entered the trial. Next moment, boom! There was a roar and the light in the trial immediately dimmed. As if feeling the invasion of non-Tan family blood, an inexplicable and powerful force fell on Suliang instantly. At this moment, even a tiny bit of this power leaked was enough to frighten the elders stationed outside and the generation masters of the Tan family. Mesozoic masters thought to themselves that if this heavy pressure fell on them, they would die in an instant. But what about Suliang? Everyone turned their attention, only to see that Suliang still looked calm and composed, not affected at all, as if the pressure didn't exist. However, those who are careful will find that the ground under Suliang's feet has sunk in a lot, and even as Suliang moves around, there are deeper holes every step of the way. This man is so tenacious, able to face such terrifying pressure with composure? No wonder he is so strong. This kind of character and tenacity alone are not something ordinary people can possess. At this moment, everyone looked at Suliang with awe. "Liang, how do you feel?" Tan Kinja beside Suliang quickly took Suliang's hand, wanting to bear the pressure on Suliang. She also felt the fierce pressure just now. Even with her current level of cultivation, this pressure could make her feel bad, let alone Suliang. Therefore, at this moment, she was very worried about Suliang. However, she has the blood of the Tan family, so this pressure has nothing to do with her. Even if she lies on Suliang's back, it will only increase the burden on Suliang, and she will not feel any pressure at all. Well, I'm fine. Suliang moved his hands and feet and felt that there were no restrictions, so he said with a smile. To be honest, this heavy pressure was stronger when he first came in, but as soon as he fully entered this trial, this feeling of heavy pressure seemed to gradually recede. At least now, Suliang doesn't feel any discomfort. "Let's go, sister, I will accompany you through this trial." Suliang smiled and stretched out his hand, took Tan Kinja's hand and led her deeper into the trial. Looking at Suliang's profile half a step ahead of her, Tan Kinja bit her red lips slightly, feeling moved but also a little complicated. Liang, in fact, he didn't have to come in. He was not from the Tan family. He had no bloodline from the Tan family at all. It was impossible to touch the Tan family's inheritance, let alone obtain it. In other words, if a Liang comes in once, no matter how many dangers he encounters, he will gain nothing in the end. But he still came in, staring at the extremely powerful force and pressing in, just for himself, worried about whether he would not be able to pass the test, worried about whether he would be injured. If this is the case, then what reason do you have for not passing the trial and getting the inheritance? His. Taking a deep breath, Tan Kinja silently made up her mind. Even if it is for her own man, she must get this inheritance and pass this trial. Since a man of his own can take so many risks for himself, why must he prove himself too? The two walked a few more steps, and what they faced was a road paved with bluestones, which was completely different and incompatible with the dirt road under their feet. It seems that this is where the trial begins. Su Liang touched his chin and said, Liang, there is something I hope you can agree to. Tan Kinja turned to look at Su Liang and said seriously, I hope you won't interfere in this trial. I want to use my own strength to pass the trial. Sister, are you sure? Su Liang asked seriously, after all, this is an immortal trial. If you go through it alone, you might encounter some dangers. The risk is simply too great. Yeah, pretty sure. Tan Kinja smiled and said, don't worry, I will be fine. I will definitely pass the trial. Liang, as long as you can stay with me and be responsible for witnessing my progress along the way, that will be fine. This. Su Liang hesitated for a moment, still a little worried, but seeing Tan Kinja's firm face, which seemed to be determined, he nodded and agreed, okay. Seeing that Su Liang agreed, Tan Kinja smiled even more happily, and then stepped onto the stone road. Next moment, a powerful attack suddenly rushed straight from the fog in front, menacing and powerful. This attack appeared so unexpectedly that it was impossible for ordinary people to be prepared for it. And considering the intensity of this attack, if there is a slight mistake, I'm afraid it will be blown away. It turns out, that Tan Wushuan failed for a few breaths before was because of this. Su Liang raised his eyebrows, and a flash of realization flashed in his heart. But Tan Kinja was experienced after all. Even if the attack appeared out of nowhere, she still responded to it. She just waved her hand to dismiss the attack and continued walking forward. But she hasn't gone far yet. In front of him, a figure exactly like Tan Kinja suddenly appeared. The same beautiful and plump, the same cold and luxurious, the same, strong aura. Without too much hesitation, the figure who looked exactly like Tan Kinja suddenly took action and slashed towards Tan Kinja with a sword. Tan Kinja did not dare to be careless and took action as well, fighting with the replica figure. But soon, Su Liang and Tan Kinja discovered that the replicating figure seemed to be stronger than Tan Kinja. Of course, the two have the same cultivation level, and the methods they have learned are also the same. The only difference is the extremely terrifying combat experience of copying the figure, and the ability to control the power in seconds. And even if Tan Kinja practices a lot, she has never reached this level. Every blow can use the maximum strength of the body, which is naturally not something Tan Kinja can compare with. Soon, Tan Kinja fell into a disadvantage. Could it be that my sister is going to fail here? Su Liang frowned slightly, feeling something was wrong. Now it seems that this trial is impeccable at all. If you find someone who is exactly the same as yourself, but has more control over strength and more combat experience than yourself, who can win? Unless you have time to practice for a long time, it is impossible to win. But unfortunately, in this trial, there is no such time at all. No, there is absolutely no chance of passing this trial. The situation in front of us seems complicated, but there must be a way to solve it. Su Liang murmured to himself, while watching the battle, he thought carefully in his heart. Soon, he felt his eyes light up, and there were some features. He clearly saw that when the cloned figure moved, there was a special power surging in its moves. This is not mixed with any other energy, but a miraculous way of exerting force. After Suliang simulated it several times in his mind, he quickly determined it. If the power is released by copying the figure, the true energy seems to have stronger control over the power. 1 point of power can exert 1.5 points of intensity. That is to say, is this trial more of a teaching than a trial? Is this teaching people who are going through trials how to use power? If you can learn this method, no matter who you are, your strength will be several times stronger. So that's it, it's indeed a fairy trick, it's really miraculous. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Suliang, who had seen everything, did not remind Tan Kinja. He believed that his sister would be able to notice this. Really? Less than a moment later, Tan Kinja began to adjust her method of exerting force. Soon, she had a pattern and gradually began to converge with this phantom. And until half an hour passed, Tan Kinja finally mastered this powerful and magical technique. With one swing of the sword, the powerful power directly broke through the phantom's defense and killed it. Seeing this, Suliang smiled even brighter. My sister has passed this test. Volume 1 Chapter 371 The inner demons are eliminated and the sublimated Tan Kinja. After passing the test, the chopped phantom suddenly exploded and turned into the purest energy, pouring into Tan Kinja's body.